Kylie.
I
Well,
like
next,
it when we find money.
Yeah.
we found it.
That's why we all look down when we walk.
Okay, so next up, shelter.
That's gotta be quick.
Well,
Get kisses.
so I want to talk to you about my thoughts. Of course, you can disagree. I'm not going to give you my recommendations um, after you talk about it. The council doesn't have the authority to decide whether BHA builds a congregate pallet hybrid shelter at the Sheridan location. BHA purchased a parcel and can build on it according to city code, and they can move forward without the council affirming a preference for congregate pallet hybrid shelter at the Sheridan location. That's their right. They own the land and they can apply for permits. And so my recommendation is that we don't state a preference because it's not under our control as a council. Do you want me to go through everything before the discussion? Okay, next. One of the things that we were asked was to commit to ongoing annual operations funding, amount to be determined. At one point, we were asked for $1 million per year for however long. The second presentation they did, they weren't so, the BHA and the partners were not so precise. So the city, when we did our 2026 adjustment to the 2025-2026 biennial budget, we adopted it last month, and it did not include any operations funding for BHA shelter at Sheridan, and the council has committed to a community-informed budget process in 2027. So depending on what requests come in, what asks come in, that would be something that we would discuss and the community would discuss during that process. At this point, we can't make a large ongoing funding commitment because that would bypass that whole process and preempt consideration alongside other priorities. We don't know what's going to happen, before our next budget's adopted, and we don't know what their real ask is going to be because, as far as they know, they haven't even put out a request for proposals yet, so they don't know what that number is. And so at this point, I don't think we can commit to ongoing operations funding, but certainly we'll consider the request in the 2027-2028 budget deliberations. Or it might just be the 2027. I don't know if we're going to do a 2-year. The staff wants to. And another ask they had was to commit to future city code changes to accommodate the congregate pallet model. As we all know, any zoning change must go through the process established by the Bremerton Municipal Code. Pre-committing would undermine that whole process. If code changes are presented to the council in the future, they will be considered with the information and public input received at that time. But we can't really promise somebody what the outcome of a zoning modification is going to be. Another ask that the partners had was to commit the council to joint messaging with BHA in community meetings to advocate for the project. The underlying budget and code issues are resolved through the public process. The council can revisit this request at a future time, but also council cannot commit staff. That's the mayor's purview to commit staff to for that kind of work. So, and committing city staff, police, and community development to participate in BHA community meetings regarding the project. Staff commitments run through the mayor, and that would be under his purview also. And I would like you, if you guys are in agreement with these, that consolidate this into a letter that we send to BHA and the partners. I mean, the things that we as a council legally can do is to say, move forward. I mean, they haven't applied for permits yet, right? So they had a pre-submittal meeting and there's a substantial list of things. So, I mean, that's a decision that they're going to make if they want to move forward. But we're not going to know until they apply for permits. So I'm open for comments, questions. Michael?
That was great. Thank you.
Mhm.
I think agree with all of that, and I definitely don't want us to appear to make a promise or things like that. I would like us to maybe maybe as a step two after where you're at is like really look into, well, what can we do? What could we do?
Mhm.
Like, even if we just said in theory, if the planning commission process recommends the change with what we know today, we would support it. Something like, well, I mean, yeah, I think it's important for folks to see that we're committed to this. I mean, it's on there, probably on the next one too.
Mhm.
For housing and things like that. I don't know that answer yet. So the example I said might not be the right thing, but I feel like we have to find the thing that we can stand on to demonstrate that we're committed to solving a little bit of this problem. So, and I don't know what that is, but I'd like to see us have conversations, see what we can legally do, see what we could. I definitely think that. I mean, if we had millions of dollars surplus in the budget every year, I'm sure it would be an easy lift to allocate some.
We could get them shorefront.
So, anyways, and then but then there's a piece where we have to sort of somewhat, I feel, securely say that the funds that we've committed to this project are still committed.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
they absolutely are
Okay.
committed.
So I just want to make sure.
But not committed specifically to a hybrid shelter on Sheridan.
Sure, but also
the project.
there might have to be an expiration date on it.
Yeah, it's December of 2026,
So
the money goes away.
We could pull the trigger and reallocate it to something.
Not if they've drawn it down.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Well,
Didn't
we've given it.
didn't we have a deadline already?
There was an original deadline when the community partners came to us when their neighborhood at Oyster Bay really pushed back. And they came to us with a proposal and said they wanted to do a hybrid shelter and that they would have it ready for occupancy by October of 2020.
Does our resolution state a deadline?
It says that the funds have to be spent by December of 2026.
All right. Okay.
Anna?
Thank you. These are our community partners, and I'd like to make sure that the letter reflects that. It's like family, or to me, it feels like family. You can get so irritated with them, but they're family.
Well put.
Yeah. When the community just real quick recap, when the community partners came to us in January 2024, they had a site. It was a building. We visited it. It had room on its parking lot. It had water, utility, sewer. It had a chain link fence. It was right next door to Mills Crossing, so people could look up. And Denise said this beautifully. They could look up and see, here's the next step, congregate, pallet, low-income Mills Crossing. They had a whole plan for talking to neighbors and, making sure that everything was going to fit in, right? And we were extremely enthusiastic about this plan. We really liked that it would move people along the continuum of care and not just be like a congregate warehouse, where you're just in there. the current proposal almost doubles the size of the congregate shelter. Um, and that's a problem.
I think it went back and forth
Mhm.
because the one they gave us in, I want to say September, had like 120. And then the one that they showed us a few months ago was much less.
It was 80, but 80 is still more
60.
than the 50 from the 40 to 50 from January 24. Anyhow, I'm not going to go on and on about this. It'll be a miracle for all of you. So I think we should be looking to find, like, we helped facilitate the first zoning change for that first site. DCD turned that around in 3 months, which is like a tesseract. And I think that we should consider helping, but in the end, Jane is quite right, and we all know we can't tell staff to do anything.
Well,
No.
it wasn't in a sub-area plan, the
It-
former.
Yeah, I'm just saying we can't.
It was kind of different though, too.
Yeah.
Because the other zoning change didn't have pushback from the community. And there's a lot of community members who live adjacent to
Yes.
the Sheridan project who are very concerned.
They are.
And
Some of
so
them are here tonight.
yeah, and they need the opportunity to be able to talk to the planning commission and have their points there.
Totally.
So,
Yeah.
so I don't know that we can say, I know we can't say, hey, community development, rush this.
We
But-
can't, especially since they rushed one whole set, because in part because we were all so passionate about it.
How about if
But
we
I'm
were
almost
to
done.
draft up?
Yeah. So that was really all I had to say is, I'd like to approach everything with them like they really are our partners, that we want this to happen. And there's only so much we can do. We were not elected queens and kings of Bremerton.
I was.
Okay, except for Jane. That's it. Well done.
Sorry, we needed some levity.
Yes, and you
Denise?
supplied it.
Yeah, I'd like to see a draft letter. I mean, if you could get together, if you need any help, I'm here, Kylie. Just kind of outlining what you went over, what the asks appear to be, and then very respectfully letting them know what our parameters are. We can't do certain things. It's
Right.
not our purview. And I would be very hesitant to say, well, a planning commission, and they know that.
I just don't want it to be where
We
we're,
should.
we're kicking it to planning commission because we don't want to tell them we don't support this.
Well, the thing is
So I think we need to,
They-
as a group,
they can easily put in their congregate. That's got no issues
Is
with
that
the
the
planning
one thing you talked
department.
No,
No.
it's zoned like multifamily. So a congregate shelter meets the definition of a multifamily residence, which is our new
It's
legislation.
the pallet shelters
Right.
that don't.
That's the 100, yeah.
So that's what they need the zoning. But
They
they,
would
Temporary
still
housing.
have to go through, they would have to meet planning commission guidelines, the design standards, so forth, for whatever portion. I mean, we need to hold them accountable as we would anybody.
I mean, can we talk about the exceptions? And if there's any give? Okay, because what I'm really going back to is this is gonna go way back, but before I even signed the lease for my space, I put a permit in, okay? Like in my business, because I know the permit process takes a minute. Now it's not the same beast at all. But there's investment in the land. There's been investment in part of the process. I think they're getting their architecture time donated, but maybe they don't want to continue to invest money like in the permit cost. If we aren't going to continue to support it.
That's up to
But-
them.
Jennifer, they started with a pre-submittal, so they know the parameters of the things they need to accomplish
Sure.
already.
Thank you, Jane. I think that there's a potential that we could also in this letter make a recommendation of how to approach it if we want to support it. We need to have public process. That's very important to you and your constituents. We also need to know exactly what the exemptions are. We have somebody who was used to be on planning commission here, who I'm sure is chomping at the bit to add information, but also waiting for us. Oh yeah, you too. I forgot. And then we used to have, yeah. So anyway, and I know that y'all know what can and can't be exempted and what's appropriate and what's not. I also know that one of the suggestions that's been floated out there is phases. I would love to see a recommendation for submitting this in phases because, in my opinion, and I'm sure y'all can understand, this is the quickest way to get a shelter now is to just have the congregate shelter as a phase 1 submitted. We can allocate the funding to them. We already have, but we can, yes, so they can spend that money in a timely fashion. It would go through quicker in the permit process. I'm sure the planning commission could possibly expedite it with the public. If the public gets behind it, and yes, there are some constituents with concerns, but y'all, we got a lot more constituents, including some clergy, it sounds like, that want to see this move forward.
And many who live in Oyster Bay.
Well, apparently
Many
the
of
mayor
those-
doesn't support that plan
Many of
anymore.
those emails are
So
coming
I-
from Oyster Bay.
Well,
I
and that's
disagree
not,
that we should be telling them, we won't make you do this, so hurry up and do that, because that's not our role as council. It's the plan, the community development, and they don't have to go to the planning commission. to
okay, well,
apply
they're
for their
listening now.
permit.
So, hey, community partners, you
Would
should probably just do phases. Are you gonna, what's going on?
Well, you can say that, sure.
Yeah,
What
but-
you believe, but this council has not made any, we have allocated 1.3.
Three.
That's a hell of a lot of money that has sat there for 2 years.
yes.
Has not been spent on the population that we want to serve. And it's going to continue to be held until they figure out what they want to do. But that is what we've done. It's a big deal, what we've done. And I'm not going to bend over backwards on a proposal that has a whole list of things. All they need to do is abide by those standards in the pre-submittal list. And my sense is they don't want to do that.
I have no idea. I really don't.
Or else
And
we would've seen a
I don't want to
permit
assume they
application.
don't want to do that. Well, right. I mean, like the permit application needs to happen. I don't want to assume that our community partners don't want to collaborate. I think that what I want to assume is the best in this group. Even though it's been a minute, we all know what the challenges have been. They tried to acquire the property, and that property was going to come with its own list of problems too. That building was
Only
not.
because it was a gift.
Okay, wait a second. There's other people who want to
Okay.
speak.
All right, cut me off.
Anna?
I'm just gonna defer. Okay, so what's the, ladies and gentlemen, if the money has to be spent, the money has to be spent by the end of this year.
Stuffy.
I don't think there is a contingency
air?
plan at this point. If the community partners, just, apply for a permit tomorrow and start building, they'll have it spent. If they decide, and I'm guessing they're gonna decide quickly if they want to move forward with the whole project, with part of the project, they'll meet with their board. So by the end of February, every board will have met. And so I don't think it'll go beyond that.
Okay.
So,
Just one of the reasons I'm bringing that up is in their original submittal, they were like, they gave us the pros and cons of renting and owning. So perhaps, yeah, so perhaps there is some place where they could, I don't know, pay 3 years of rent in advance.
Not what they want to do.
Well, they haven't played from the site for a year.
Yeah,
but Michael,
So
that was it.
we're here because this council pulled the plug on the Oyster Bay one.
Yeah.
mhm.
And said, let's trust our community partners to do this for us.
Mhm.
I feel like you've changed our tone.
We have.
And how do we justify that?
I have. I was probably the most outspoken person put my neck out there big time, made the motion for this. It was used in a campaign mailer by our mayor. The fact that I did that. I believe it shows quite a bit of wisdom and intelligence for somebody to say 2 years later, after the world has changed. Let's take another look at this. There have been, and I have stated publicly my concerns about this process. They are numerous, they are serious, they are a matter of ethics and integrity and public process as well. I think this council has been very supportive of this partnership, of the collaborative. I think we were disappointed. I think there are incredible challenges for the proposal that they've made. I personally, just because we all have our own, I don't think it's a viable proposal. As an investor, I wouldn't, and I am in deep despair about what this would do to my district and the chance of it ever recovering from the absence of Harrison Hospital. And so I believe that there have been decisions made outside of our purview, but that I did try to influence. There were decisions made that have brought us here to this day. I don't like the decisions that were made. I don't like the way they were made. And I do, that is with me. That to go from, let's trust our partners. I still have a nugget of trust. These are good organizations, good people, right? But I think there's something about operating in a closed chamber for 2 years, just talking to yourselves and saying how wonderful we are. To come to us with a proposal where they're asking us for $1 million a year was not based in reality. So it's not a NIMBY, folks. Truly, I was incredibly supportive of the first site. It was in District 2. I have 3 others. There's a little place right over by Fred Meyer that's an acre on the county side of Riddell. Let's work, but it wasn't. About a year ago, it shifted to Sheridan. It was all quiet. Donation of property was made with a lot of restrictions based on that donation that wouldn't have been made if it was a sale. You can't do that, but if it's a donation, you can. So the whole thing, the whole process has been tainted for me, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
Rick, I haven't heard from you on this at all. Do you have any comments?
Not at this.
Okay. Christy, you
I
have
just
any?
want to be clear about the funding, just so that I understand it. So it is 1.3
1.3.
in kind of two.
It was 1.1 of ARPA money, COVID money,
Mhm.
and 200 of BEAT money.
Okay, so with that,
A
the
different one.
1.1 is a federal grant that is set to expire at the end of this year.
Correct.
Is it a reimbursement mechanism? So
Yes.
do they have to expend those funds that meet the criteria in order to get reimbursement for those?
That's my understanding.
Okay. So
Here
then-
comes our finance man.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be reimbursement based on those costs.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, because that kind of, we have a timeline and an expiration date in December of this year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a very, very tight timeline to have somebody do something to the point that we can reimburse them under the standards of this grant. So that kind of is asking a lot. I think that's where we come to the partners of, is this feasible at this point? Because we are here today, like there's no going back. We can't go in the Wayback Machine on this one. But is it too much to ask to have whatever it is, whatever we're looking at, these funds are just gonna go away, is my understanding. Like, it's $1 million today, but the federal grant, if we do not expend them in the ways that we need to as a reimbursement mechanism by December 31st, they are gone.
Right.
Yep.
Gone
forever.
It'll
Okay,
be rebutted to the program. There's mechanisms now within the portal to how to make that payment back. It's been a lot easier, something like
okay.
So
And because it's
Okay.
a federal fund, it also has the chance,
Thank
while
you.
we have everything right now on paper that is through December 31st, being a federal grant, it can be something that could be taken back.
Yeah.
At
Yes.
some point, okay.
Mhm.
So it's in our best interest to use those funds.
Well, it's in
So-
the best interest of the house.
We have to have the mechanism to do that though, because we're stuck, it's a reimbursement mechanism, so there has to be a way.
Can I ask you just, because I know where you're at with your budget, because I used to do like,
Yeah,
so like they can spend the money on December 12th and still be reimbursed if they submit receipts. Does that make sense?
Jennifer.
So like they have up until the 26th to spend which I don't know how much that matters, but
yeah, I'm just saying, like, because that is also, are we putting too much emphasis on that? Like, because there's a work product that has to be done in 2026 so that we can use
Right.
this as a reimbursement mechanism.
that money could be spent quickly
Okay,
on
Can
this
always
project.
spend money.
So, so I'd like to say something. My goal is to get people off the street and get them out of Salvation Army as quick as we can. So I would really like to move forward, doing a draft of a letter that I would pass around for everybody on council to look at and to give them the guidelines that we talked about tonight. I mean, there's only certain things that we can do. And and they can decide whether or not that's enough for them. And if it's not enough for them, we gotta figure out a way to pivot quickly.
Can you just, and I'm sorry, can you just kind of bullet point,
Sure.
sorry, with that? I just want to make
Um,
sure I know what I'm agreeing to,
okay,
just the headline.
You're agreeing.
They
to
wanted
a draft.
they wanted us to affirm a preference for the congregate pallet shelter model at the Sheridan location. And we can't state a preference since it's not a matter that council controls.
Okay,
Right? The next was to commit to ongoing annual operations funding, amount to be determined, possibly $1 million annually. That was their first ask, but then they
anything will
said it might
do.
be less.
Okay,
And
200.
the recommendation is council does not commit to ongoing operations funding at this time, but we'll consider it during our budget deliberations, which should be more community focused this year.
Okay.
Commit to future city code changes to accommodate the congregate pallet model. If code changes are presented to council in the future, they will be considered with the same information and public input that is received. Okay,
and those codes would be presented from DCD or,
yes,
okay?
yes.
So
it'll go
we
through
don't do that as council,
No,
okay?
we
I mean,
don't.
we already knew that,
Yeah,
but I
we
wanted
just
to make
want it
sure that
separate.
that's,
Right. They asked for a commitment to the city for installing and or waiving installation of infrastructure improvements on the project. Council can't commit to the city installing or waiving infrastructure improvements until we have additional information. Another one was commit the council to a joint messaging with BHA in community meetings to advocate for the project. Once the underlying budget and code issues are resolved through public process, the council, we can then talk about it and say, do we want to do this or not? And by that time, they'd be pretty far down the line with their project. Commit city staff, police, and community development to participate in BHA community meetings regarding the project. Staff participation is based on the mayor's recommendation. So
that's the last bullet, okay.
that's the last bullet on it.
And this might be too much to talk about now, but do we want to talk about what happens if it gets to a critical mass point, if it's 6 months down the line?
Not tonight.
When would we like to revisit it?
When we get a response from the community partners.
Are you sure you don't want to talk about this until 10 o'clock?
I'm positive.
Okay, just checking.
I'm really positive.
Okay.
And there's a lot of interest in the council for, to continue discussions, and I would like to consider having an ad hoc committee. And I'm recommending both Denise, because the shelter is proposed in your district, and Rick to be on the committee because you have Pendleton Place in your district, and plus the horse project that's being built is right adjacent to your district line.
It's also got planning commission.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you don't want to, that's fine,
No,
but I
that
just,
that is a very good answer. Just don't know have to figure out what the scope of this is. Okay,
lots of meetings.
yeah, and that's.
No, most of our ad hocs, we focus them, and so it's like one meeting a week for about a month. Okay. And plus, I like the idea that you're brand new and we've all rehashed a lot of these things. And I think having a fresh perspective would be really helpful. Okay, so can I move forward with doing a draft that will be circulated to everybody?
I would like to make one request. I think we should, as a council, support the hybrid shelter model. That's the only change I'd like to make. There's not very much we can do about it, but in a resolution sort of way, I think the hybrid shelter model is superior to the congregate only model. Putting it on Sheridan Way, that's not my call. But to support the model that they originally gave us, where people can move along a continuum of care, you're in congregate, you keep it together, you get into a pallet house, within months you get a BHA Section 8 voucher, boom, 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 boom. You
We
can
already
move
did.
along it.
So the one thing that I can say to that, in the ILA, we did very specific that they would choose property with the proper zoning to do a hybrid. So
They
as,
didn't.
as soon as they apply for a permit and go through zoning, then sure. But I don't think that's something that we can presuppose right now. And I don't think it's fair to the community who lives around there and has concerns.
I'm not tying it to the site in any way.
But it would be tied into the site.
Fair enough.
And planning commission might see
Fair
that
enough.
as a council direction, you know.
Can I ask
That
some-
would be unusual.
Oh, no, they pay attention to this.
Okay, Jennifer, please.
Can I ask some more questions about the ad hoc?
Yes.
What is the purpose of the ad hoc committee?
To look at different ways of addressing issues related to the city's unhoused community members.
Hmm.
Okay.
I
Is
don't
there
know.
anybody sitting on this ad hoc that's been unhoused? Okay.
I haven't talked about it much, but yeah, domestic violence victims are in house quite a bit.
Okay.
But I actually, you know, with me, you all know I'm almost too close to this. This is, it's like I'm a lover scorn, right? I do feel a sense of loss with this, with relationships, with.
But I
all of
think
that.
there's a lot of other things to discuss besides this. There's all kinds of housing that, frankly, Bremerton supplies way more than anybody in Kitsap County. Supportive housing, and you know, those are the type of those small incremental changes.
I'm not
it's more
saying I won't do
important.
it. I just
Okay.
I'm pushing back a little bit on the choice.
Okay, well, we can go over that another time.
Yeah, I'm not,
I
I would like to understand the scope of this too, and whether it's what the expectation is.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm not,
It's to walk on water.
and
Gracefully.
Yeah.
We're only asking to solve one problem. Come on.
And so you would be the third member of the ad hoc, is that?
Nobody's been able to solve.
Is that what's being proposed?
The three of you can do it, no worries. We'll look back for a report back at the next study session.
so I do want to say though that, the public input, that we've seen in the last 2 weeks has been very helpful and valuable.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
don't believe that we would have ever got, by it being written, I don't believe we would have ever gotten that breadth of input that we've received.
Verbally.
Yeah,
They're
verbally would've been-
anxious.
Yeah, it would have been verbally to get that much input and that diverse perspective. So that's been really good.
Yeah, I think that the public has really, really stepped up. I mean, I was adding it up the other day, and if it was people giving public testimony on this just one time, it would have been over 6 hours of 3 minutes and then all the space in between. So I think I really appreciate all the people who have taken the time to write their thoughts.
You gave, opened my aperture,
Yeah, yeah.
much larger than it was before, so that was great. It's been fantastic.
I never realized that the neighborhood pantries could cause problems,
Yeah.
But then when you read about it, I mean, that's a perspective somebody else has. Okay,